Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, powered by BetUS. Yes, I am recording live from T-Squared Social, where we just had I would say, a fairly enthusiastic watch party here at the Friendly Confines right on 42nd Street, just down the block from Grand Central Station, the best sports bar in New York. Thank you to T-Squared Social for hosting the Knicks Film School watch party tonight. And I would have appreciated them regardless of how the Knicks came out and played today. And yet I find myself showing a bit more gratitude because the Knicks, well, they came out tonight and they held up their end of the bargain. We have been through a season. It feels like it's been a long season already. It's funny how that works out. Only 7 games, but the word I used today in the Knicks Film School level newsletter was consternation, because it feels like no matter how optimistic you were about this team heading into this game, no matter the expectations you had for this team heading into this game, there was, I think, some level of doubt in most people when it came to the roster that they had assembled and the game plan moving forward. And I think tonight represented, and look, we saw some of this, obviously, Miami. We saw some of this against Detroit. We saw some of it against Indiana. We even saw some of this in some of the games that they've lost. But I would go so far as to say that tonight represented the most complete picture of the vision. We keep talking about the vision. We keep talking about what is this front office had in mind? What did this coaching staff have in mind? And I think this represented the most complete picture of what we think this team should look like moving forward, and if they hope to achieve some big things this year. So let's dig into that. And what do I mean by that? I think there's been, so far this year, a lot of conversation about both sides of the ball. But interestingly enough, despite the fact that they have been coming into tonight, they were 4th in the league in offense, and I think it was 18th or 19th in the league in defense. The greater level of concern has been about the offense, because it hasn't looked the way we expected it to look. We'll get to the defense in a bit. I'm gonna save that purposefully. And I think I want to start there, because what you saw from the offense tonight, on a night when the Knicks scored 116 points and they took all of their relevant players out with 5 minutes to go in the game, and you could look at the scoreboard, they scored 32 in the first quarter, 34 in the second quarter. I don't want to say they took off their foot off the gas, but 25 in the third, 25 in the fourth. It could have been higher if they had kept their guys in. This was an exceptional offensive showing for the Knicks. And this team that came in, and I have been a very big fan of the offense so far. I've been touting the offense in terms of why you should have belief in this team long-term. And yet, I have had to acknowledge they've been the best three-point shooting team in the league. They have been the highest three-point percentage shooting team in basketball before tonight. This is a team that came out tonight and absolutely dominated the Milwaukee Bucks on the offensive end of the floor, despite shooting 30.4% from deep. I'm going to read you a couple of statistics, and I don't mean this to disparage these players, but just pointing it out. Mikal Bridges, 3 of 11 from deep. OG Anunoby, 1 of 8 from deep. Jalen Brunson, 0 of 5 from long range. The Knicks, a couple of Knicks hit it from deep tonight. We're going to talk about Karl-Anthony Towns in a second. But this is a night where they dominated offensively despite not being hot from behind the arc. And I think when I look at big picture, when I look at indications of what this team could be long-term, I am looking at that figure, 30% from deep, the worst figure they had tonight. I'm looking at that first and foremost, because it's a sign to me of what this could have been if they just hit average from deep. And the reason it was still so good, despite the fact that they couldn't shoot the ball, is because for the first time all season, this team moved the ball I'm not even going to say with intentionality, because I think there have been other times this year where they have moved the ball, trying to get things going. But I thought they did so tonight for the first time with a recognition of the talent that they had on the floor. And that seems like a silly thing to say, but how many times did you look at a Knick possession tonight on offense and say, they settled? Maybe there were a few, but they played with such a purpose, and they passed and they moved the ball and moved themselves. Talk about like a Clydism, right? Move the ball, move yourself. As well as I have seen them do it, not only this year, but really at any time in recent memory. I went and looked it up before I started tonight. 35 assists tonight on 43 made field goals. 35 assists on 43 made field goals. So the 35 assists, that's easily the highest they've had all year. It would have ranked third for all of last season. And in terms of assist percentage, the high for assist percentage last year, they had 2 games of assist percentage of at least 80. They had one where it was 80 and one where it was 87. Tonight's number, I'm going to do, see, it's why good you have a calculator on your phone, kids. 35 out of 43, 81.4%. So second best, would have been the second best assist percentage of all of last season out of 82 games they achieved tonight against this Bucks team. As I see Daniel, yeah, come on out. Yeah, listen, the man here at T Squared Social, I had to come on, say hi.
Hey,
hi, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
He was kind enough to bring me a beverage. You know why? Because Daniel knows how to take care of his customers, and you. Yes, I love it. He's been in the business for a while. I appreciate that. He just brought me a cold one, please. So I'm going to open that for myself right now. They played tonight like they recognized who they are and who they could be. And I think that's so important, because for all the talk about individual players' struggles, and for all the talk about on offense, and for all the talk about, what is the defense going to be with Towns in the middle and without a true center and all that stuff, there was a level that we thought that they could reach when they assembled this roster offensively that no one would be able to, as long as they were an average defense, it would be fine. And I think for the first time tonight, we saw them reach that level. Now, the comeback for that is going to be, it was against the Bucks. The Bucks defense stinks. Everybody has scored on the Bucks. To which I say it's a fair point. And yet, the Bucks recently inserted Andre Jackson Jr. into the starting lineup. I thought he's a respectable wing. I thought, actually, it's funny, Brook Lopez was getting clowned by Towns tonight. I thought like Brook Lopez was playing the role of like an above average defensive center. And yeah, a lot of beat reporters were tweeting out throughout the game, like, why not put Giannis on Cat? Which I totally agree with. At the same time, Brook is a guy who has finished. What did he finish? Second in Defensive Player of the Year voting at one point in time. So the notion that this is like a terrible defensive center that we were seeing out there is crazy. Brook is an above average defensive center, and the Knicks were cooking him. And then Giannis, like, we know what Giannis could do. He's a former Defensive Player of the Year award winner. So you had 3+ defenders out there. I get the Dame was still out there as well. And Connaughton's like not anything great. But I thought tonight the Knicks' ability to do what they did was more about New York than it was about Milwaukee. And I've been saving it. I've been talking for 10 minutes. Haven't yet explicitly talked about Karl-Anthony Towns. Let's see. Is this a good game? 32 points on 20 shots, 4 of 8 from deep from your center, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 turnovers. I don't know what else. I'm at game 8, and I already kind of don't know what else to say about Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, this is who he is. This is what he does. This is his impact on a team's offense. And when you can put defenses in the sort of compromising position that Towns is able to put them in. And here's the thing. I understand Milwaukee's not a great defense, and you could put this version of the Knicks offense where they are right now against the great defense, and that great defense will be able to shut them down. Here's my counter to that. The version of the Knicks offense that we're seeing right now is not going to be the version of the Knicks offense that we see in 20 games, in 40 games, in 60 games, God willing, in 90-plus games. So it's like you're looking for crumbs. You're looking for breadcrumbs. You're looking for signs. And I think Towns and the things he's able to do in this offense, you continue to see the evidence of what they thought they were getting when they put this team together because of what he's able to do, surrounded by this offensive talent. Because here's the thing. Unlike any team he's ever been on before, you can't ignore anyone on this Knicks team when he's in the game. You know, like, you want to give me Josh Hart, you want to give me Deuce McBride. No, you have to pay attention to those guys. You have to honor those guys. And for him to just continue to take advantage of that, obviously the shooting is going to regress a little bit from deep. That's fine. It can regress a little bit. The rising tide is going to continue to lift these other ships, and I don't think we've seen that at all. And I think, and that leads me to the next guy that I want to talk about, which is Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson tonight, a stat line that will not impress anyone. 15 points on 14 shots, 6 of 14 shooting. 0 of 5 from deep, only got to the line 4 times. The one part of his stat line that was good, and it's the part that I want to focus on right now. 9 assists, 0 turnovers. I thought Jalen Brunson played a brilliant game tonight for a guy whose shot was clearly off. 0 of 5 from deep. You take those away. What was Jalen Brunson tonight? He was 6 of 9 from the field, 3 or 4 from the line, 9 assists, 0 turnovers. He played like a guy who was in command of a team that he knew exactly what he had, and he knew where he needed to get the ball to get guys involved and get guys going. And I thought that was a purposeful decision from Brunson coming out of the gate with the acknowledgement that he is still trying to get himself going. And we know the version of Jalen Brunson that we're seeing. Right. Here's the thing. I hate to give this guy any credit because he's generally ridiculous. But Kendrick Perkins on ESPN said, you know, I thought Jalen Brunson was the best player in the NBA last year. I don't think he's a top 15 player through 7 games. He said that before tonight. I don't disagree. Jalen Brunson hasn't been a top 15 player in the East up until tonight. And I think tonight was the first time you really saw the signs of what Jalen Brunson is going to be with this offense. And as far as the 3-pointers didn't fall tonight and he's still looking a little uneasy on some other stuff, I don't care about that. You know why? Because that stuff's going to come. You know what's going to come with Brunson. He's figuring out his role. So for as much as tonight was about Towns, I think tonight was about Brunson just as much. Because what I saw from him was a real, genuine adjustment in play style to try to get the offense going. And you know what? It worked. And that's why I'm really excited about Brunson after tonight. We could talk about all the other guys. We could talk about Deuce McBride. Scored 14 points. He was a plus 21 off the bench. Great game for Deuce. We could talk about Mikal Bridges. Was kind of cold from the field, or at least behind the arc. Still made it work for him. Still did some nice things on the offensive end. OG was cold shooting tonight, and yet I thought he was as valuable as any Knick because of his defense. It's not a coincidence that their defense fell off a cliff when he exited the game in the first half. I thought OG played a very, very good game, and I thought his process was very good. And then there's Josh Hart, just doing Josh Hart things. 11 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Ho-hum. Like, this is what Josh Hart does. So the starting 5 as a unit played really well. I thought the team on the whole played very well. Hell, let's give some credit to Jericho Sims, right? Why not? Jericho Sims had his best stretch as not as a Knick, but certainly this season. It was just a really good game on the offensive end. Defense, yeah, I'm maybe burying that a little bit. Were there some moments where the Bucks were carving up New York? Yeah, there were. Like, I'm looking at the Bucks scored 94 points, and of those 94 points, 54 points were in the paint. That's a lot of points in the paint, and it's an even bigger ratio. But I'm looking at another number. 30. That's how many threes the Bucks took tonight. Now, I understand they didn't shoot well. And I think the reason for that is because when the Knicks left Buck open Milwaukee three-point shooters, they were doing so pretty purposefully, number one. And number two, there were very few. I think the Knicks are getting better and better and better with each passing game at preventing other teams from generating open threes. There were a few tonight. I understand there were a few tonight. I thought the Knicks got better in that respect. And I thought in general, they were limiting threes and they were saying, if you want to penetrate against us, yeah, you will find some seams, but we're going to trust what we have going on the interior. And again, 54 points, a lot of points in the paint. But you look at the final score, 94 points for Milwaukee. This is a team that has not lost this year because of their offense. They've lost this year because of their defense. So I think the performance the Knicks put on defensively tonight was great. Was it evidence of a great defense? Were there a lot of forays into the restricted area where you're like, man, that hurts my soul. That was too easy. Yeah, sure. But if it's part of a larger ecosystem, I think you live with it. And again, just like the offense is going to continue to get better, just like Brunson's going to continue to get better, just like we're going to see more cohesion on the offensive end, where guys are really, we're seeing guys get into easier and easier and easier shots. I think that the same is going to apply to the defense. So all things considered, I thought this was a really good night for the Knicks. I thought it was an important night for the Knicks. Somebody asked me a little while ago, admit it, tonight was a must-win game, right? I can't go there. I can't go there not in November. I thought it was an important game. I thought it was an important game for morale, and I thought it was an important game to make sure that, you just gotta stem the tide. You gotta stem the tide until you get some real time for this group to coalesce. And now you put yourself in a position where go win even just one of the next two games versus Indiana and Philadelphia, and you're 500 after the first 10. I know myself, like, I might not have been enthusiastic about it. I probably would have signed for 5-5 after 10, and now you're almost there. So all of that, great stuff. We are almost to the Super Chats. First things first, got to do our autograph signature moment of the game. I have a couple of options here, and I could get into the nitty gritty of the, this play really popped, that play really popped. I have to go with my heart, and I have to go with after several Karl-Anthony Towns threes. Brook Lopez finally, God bless his soul, came out to guard Towns on the arc. And what did Towns do? Put the ball on the floor, drove the lane, and yammed it in Brook Lopez's face. I should have written down what the score was after that. My bad, I didn't. But anybody who watches this game knows exactly what I'm talking about. Karl-Anthony Towns is a walking... let's just face it. If you use him the right way and you put him around some decent offensive talent, he's a walking top 5 offense. Typically, we use that phrase. We reserve that phrase for the Jokic's and the Halliburtons and the Doncic's of the world. I think Towns does it in a different way, in the way that he puts pressure on the defense because of he doesn't let you relax against anybody because of his shooting, because of his passing. How good was Towns passing tonight? I shouted out Jalen Brunson and his 9 assists. Karl-Anthony Towns had 5 assists. Tied for third most on the team after Josh Hart after Josh Hart. OG with 5 assists. How about that? When's the last time the Knicks have had 5 or 4 starters with 5 or more assists? Pretty good. So anyway, that is our autograph signature moment of the game. Of course, if you do not yet have the autograph app, what are you doing? Download it. You can go to my Twitter page to download that. The link is in my bio. They're giving away great stuff left and right. They were giving away cheap Knicks Bucks tickets before tonight's game. They'll be doing more of that stuff throughout the rest of the year. And you're going to get some exclusive content from me on the autograph app every Monday and occasional locker room discussions where I will be taking questions from autograph users. So that is our autograph signature moment of the game.